All right, so I saw your post on Reddit where you talked about your playing of the second movement of the Pathetique Sonata in front of a panel at a masterclass, and one of the panelists suggested to you maybe to bring up more of the expressive nature of it. Think of something, think of an image, a running stream, or I can't remember what they had suggested. And you got some reaction to that. Some people deeply disagreed with it. Some people suggested, hey, you got enough to think about, let alone layering this on. And I don't disagree with that. But I will say this is a technique, and sometimes it can help. It's a solution to a problem. If you're thinking, I've read what the composers directed me to do, and I need to find that essence. That right now my playing just kind of feels a little flat. Sometimes this tool will work, and I've had it suggested to me a couple of times. So what I'd like to do in this video is give you 3 examples where I've used it, where it has really helped. I will say I rarely use this technique, but when it does, sometimes it's just the trick that gets me over the hump. So the first was, I was learning Clair de Lune many years ago, and I got about this far, and he stopped me. He goes, no, flat, it's flat playing. It's just, he goes, think water nymphs. And I didn't know what a water nymph was, but I thought it was some kind of mythical character. So I repeated it, trying to play it with a mystical quality, and I still wasn't doing it. And I said, well, I'm thinking of the water nymphs. And he says, your water nymph was sitting on a rock eating a hot dog. And he wasn't being mean. We had a good laugh over it. But he says, no, your nymph needs to beckon. La-dee, he wants to beckon you. And so I thought, okay. And then I played. He goes, yes, there we go. So we had a little breakthrough. I'm not sure how much of it came from the water nymph thing, but it was a good conversation. And I think about the water nymphs to this day when I play that piece. So that's example 1. Example 2 is something I kind of came up with on my own. Also a Debussy piece, Reverie. And there's a section in the middle where he plays a little melody up here, repeats it down here with a bit of a change. Plays it up here again, plays it down there. And it almost, as I came back to this piece later in life, I thought, it feels like a conversation between 2 people. One person's uptight, the other person's, full of life, and, let's go for it. And I think of them talking about maybe going out for a walk. And the first person goes, oh, maybe we should stay inside because I think it's gonna rain. And the other person says, well, we could stay inside, but maybe it won't rain. Why don't we go out and have a nice time? And then the person says, oh, but I think I see some dark clouds gathering. I think we're gonna get soaked. And the other person says, well, then let's put our boots on, and if it does rain, we'll splash through the puddles and have a grand time. And so when I play that, I think about that, and I think it inspired me to have those answers just a bit more animated, a bit more playful and fun-loving. And am I suggesting that that's what Debussy had in mind? No. But I think what it does is it gets me a little closer to the character that Debussy might have wanted in that passage. We don't know for sure, because all he says is play the upper voice quiet and the other one less quiet. So for me, that technique helped me get a bit more animation out of it. Now I have one final one I want to share with you, and it's from the very piece that you played. So the middle section where it goes, starts off with that. When I play this section, and for me, this is one of the greatest passages in the entire piano repertoire. So lyrical. I see an opera, and those first 2 notes, it's like the curtain coming up, and those repeated C's. Something's gonna happen. And the left hand is the orchestra, and it builds this very dramatic. You could just imagine an opera orchestra. Oh, so big. And then of course the soloist. Like it's so beautiful. So I think about that opera when I play this passage, and I think it helps me get a little bit more out of it. Some people may disagree with my interpretation of this passage, maybe a little too romantic for what is a classical piece, but I think I think it's appropriate. So I think what you've come across in this masterclass is a technique that you can use. Again, you may not use it all the time, but I think every now and then you can pull it out. And if you find a metaphor that works for you and helps you get more at what that composer wanted, which is that expressive playing, then who's to tell you that you're wrong?